What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today, we're going to be going over one of my favorite Kyle Shanahan play action passing concepts, the drift swirl concept. Going to be showing you guys some examples from different playbooks on how this thing's run, the progressions, the receiver coaching points, all that stuff. So just before we get started, please consider liking the video if you like this video, and consider subscribing to the channel if you like this type of content. The drift swirl concept, as you can see at the bottom right, you guys can see a picture of uh, the play from the Falcons playbook from Shanahan back in the mid 2010s when he was with Atlanta. He's actually been running this, I believe, since his days with like RG3 when he was really young coming into the league. So this has been a staple of his offense for quite a while. And drift swirl is exactly like it sounds, man. Drift is basically a 10-yard inbreaker, and swirl is a 7-stop. So if you guys aren't familiar with the digit offense, a 7-stop, a 7 is the numeric kind of term in the digit offense for a corner route, and a swirl is just a corner stop. Work back to the quarterback. So I'll kind of show you guys some examples of the quarterbacks throwing both of the routes, some of the teaching points, and all that stuff. So without further ado, let's get started. So the Niners, they're in 21 personnel here. They're actually in shotgun. You can run this out of shotgun. You can run it under center. They're going to send Deebo Samuel in motion here a couple different times and throw the drift route to Brandon Ayuk for a big play. And we'll just kind of break this down, kind of what the play is intended to do. Basically, Ayuk's going to be running the drift, and George Kittle down here at the bottom of the screen is going to be running the swirl route. So the Niners will tag this with a lot of their different run plays. On this particular example, they're going to end up pulling the left guard, which is going to pull these linebackers down. And that's what you're trying to get. You're trying to get this vertical pull so you can throw behind the linebackers. Pretty self-explanatory. Doesn't need more, kind of in-depth analysis than that. But Jimmy G does a good job, pulling this out and then throwing this inbreaker to Ayuk over the middle. So Kittle, not the prettiest route at the bottom of the screen, but you kind of get the point on what they're trying to accomplish. So as with everything else, man, this has shifted to different playbooks around the league. You'll see McVay run it. You'll see Kevin O'Connell run it. LaFleur runs it. Any of these like Shanahan type offenses, they all run this scheme. They just all do it a little bit differently, maybe from different personnel, anything like that. So here's the Vikings running it from last year against the Commanders. They're also in 21 personnel, but they're going to be under center. They're going to send Justin Jefferson in motion here, get a single high look. He's going to do the play action fake to Dalvin Cook and then bang the drift route. This to me is like a perfect example of how you want this ran from under center, just from a timing perspective. Cousins is really good as well about throwing these, in breakers. But just in terms of the drift route, you're really supposed to sell this a little bit like one step outside. So Jefferson does a good job creating separation and threatening the outside shoulder of the cornerback. And usually, if you're inside the numbers, it's 6 steps. If you're outside the numbers, it's a 7-step route. But you want to catch this ball like just outside the hash. And you see where he catches this ball right outside the hash. I mean, it's a perfect in time, great timing here from Cousins. And as soon as he hits that back foot, he loads, separates, accurate ball. A little high, maybe sacrifice some yards after the catch there. And then, of course, you got Adam Thielen up at the top running the 7 swirl. So now we're going to get into some examples of them throwing the swirl route instead. This is the Niners from last year, but instead this is Brock Purdy throwing this to George Kittle on the 7-stop. Kind of a similar example for what we saw earlier, but this time they're under center. 2 tight end sets. This is 12 personnel. Going to get the left guard coming over, pulling. Fake to McCaffrey. In my opinion, as soon as he hits this drop, I think he's got a window to throw this drift route. I think that's pretty open to me. But Purdy doesn't like it. Ends up kind of hitching up a couple different times and then gets to Kittle on the swirl route kind of late. But really nice job from Kittle. Basically on this corner stop route, this is usually about 10 yards and break up to the corner and then stop and break back to the quarterback. The really important thing here is usually you want to push to the inside edge of the numbers. That's kind of one of their coaching points. And then really important to work back to the quarterback, especially when you're a tight end here and, this guy's trying to be physical with you. You want to make sure that, the defender can't, undercut this route. So Kittle does a really good job, being physical, using his frame to kind of box out the defender, working back to the quarterback, and we get a nice first down out of it. So um, here is Mike McDaniel's offense with the Dolphins last year. That was crazy explosive. Tua, both those really fast receivers. They did some different stuff with their drift swirl concepts, but this was one of the closest examples that I could find. But here they're running 21 personnel, and Tua's going to nail the swirl route. Kind of just some of the coaching points. So again, the number one option on this play is, the drift route. So you'll see Tua open up. He doesn't like this. The Bills are playing quarters coverage. So with only one receiver on that side, this safety has the ability to kind of nail down and undercut this drift route. And Terrell Edmonds kind of reading his eyes. He's a really long defender as well. So he doesn't like that window. So you'll see quickly get his eyes to the backside. Kyrie Elam is way, way out just because the Dolphins, everything they run is really predicated on the receiver speed, especially last year with McDaniel. That's why they were so explosive, because they knew that teams had to respect the speed of their two receivers. Kyrie Elam's bailing out of here like crazy. And even this safety, he's not going to be able to nail down on this swirl route. So Tyreek Hill, wide open. He gets to the inside of the numbers, starts working his way back to the quarterback. Now, again, I'm not trying to tell Tyreek Hill how to play receiver, but I think if he comes back to the football here, and instead of just waiting on it, he probably doesn't take as big of a hit, and maybe he even, avoids this angle from the strong safety instead of getting nailed. So, but again, another really big completion. I think that went for like 15, 16 yards. So, I can't really complain too much, but, maybe a little bit left on the table there. But here's a example of when not to run drift swirl, and kind of some of the coverages and some of the reasons that you don't like to throw this pass against cover two. So anytime in the Shanahan system, from what I understand, just doing some research, anytime that Shanahan would tell the quarterback, if you get too high safeties, run the football. Like all of these plays are tagged with runs, and he gives his quarterbacks the option. Like if you see too high, run the ball. And why is that? Well, this play works better against like cover one, cover three, single high. Against cover two doesn't really work as well because that end breaker isn't really typically open, as you'll kind of see in this particular example. So now, do the Steelers have this check in their offense? I don't know. Just based on some of the comments about the freedom of the quarterbacks, maybe not. But the Patriots are doing a good job disguising this pre-snap. We get a single high safety back here, and they're almost trying to make this look like a blitz. This dude's got his foot up. Maybe he's getting capped by this defender. But all in all, running this from 11 personnel, their most popular run play is the split zone flow inside zone. So they're bringing this tight end across. But this ends up turning into cover two. So what I mean by that is two deep safeties cover in the half field. And then we get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 underneath defenders. Now, the problem is this kind of jet motion here with Pickens. It's going to affect this cloud corner a little bit, but this guy right here in the throwing window, he has nothing to look at except Trubisky's eyes. So in his drop, he's literally just looking at Trubisky, staring this guy down. He does a good job kind of opening up his hips. It's a really good play by the linebacker, but this is a reason why you don't throw the drift route, especially against cover two. Those slant windows are really tough, especially if you don't really have anything influencing this linebacker. He can just really read the eyes of the quarterback and get his depth, and just some other stuff too. Like I don't particularly love this route by Claypool at the bottom of the screen either. Just some of the teaching points. You see, like he's way outside the numbers here. Instead of running to the inside of the numbers, he's running to the outside of the numbers. We don't have a control player for this cloud corner, so he's able to basically just open up and run because he doesn't have a threat down here really in the flat. And even if Claypool, runs this right and, breaks sharp back to the quarterback, I think this guy is going to be able to get underneath this. Um, but yeah, I mean, cover two is not really the play that you want to run this against, especially when you only got one receiver really running a route on this side of the field. If this safety's super aggressive, he can nail down on this slant or this drift route as well. So this is kind of when you don't want to run the play. So in this instance, this is kind of where you would move on to usually the third route in the progression, which is usually throwing this out to the flat or just throwing the ball away. I mean, throwing the ball away is better than throwing an interception. But the third kind of progression in this play is usually whatever control player, whether it's, a sift route, anything in the flat here is normally the third progression. I didn't really see the quarterbacks get to that progression just in the offenses that I watch, but I'm sure it does happen at least from time to time. So I think that brings us to the end of the video. If you guys like this type of content, please make sure that you subscribe to the channel. Again, if you stay to the end, please drop me a like on the way out. Drop me a comment. Let me know what you guys thought of the video. Let me know what you guys think of the drift swirl concept. And if there's anything else that you guys would like me to break down from a scheme perspective, I know some people have been commenting on the videos asking me to do more scheme stuff, and I'll really am intending on doing that throughout the summer. So I appreciate you guys tapping in with me. I will see you all next time. Peace.